Today I want to talk a little bit about just getting into a really smooth, easy strum, because I do a lot of finger picking, as you know, which I enjoy. But sometimes there comes a time when somebody's got to just do like a super, whether it's a country song or Americana, whatever it is. And so in this case, I'm just gonna land on a D chord and move around and show you not so much like licks and things like that, although I'll throw a few in. I'm thinking more like, how to get that right hand super smooth. And sometimes it involves a light touch, A lot of times, you might have occasion to play with quite a bit of gusto with a pick. But also, I think I'll pick an even lighter pick. So, gauge matters for this. If I'm playing in the studio and they need a feather light touch, sometimes I'll use a light pick. A lot of people use real heavy ones. That's fine too. And also where you hit it matters, whether you hit it here or here or here, as I'm going to show you. Obviously, if you hit it near the bridge, it's going to be super bright, right? A little more medium in the middle, like that. And then sometimes I find myself, even at a gig, I'll be playing and I want to take it to a softer place, but I don't want to change much else other than the tone. And you can get that by just moving up towards the neck, like check it out. Right, and then you might want a flourish. That's the beauty of guitars. You can get all these different sort of like tonal dynamics, right? You get like, obviously if you're playing a real, sort of spaghetti Western kind of thing, I got my reverb on. Oh, I'll get my reverb on here. I got a secret reverb box in there. Ooh. That was one of the first licks I ever learned on guitar. James Bond theme. But that being said, back to our rhythm thing. Obviously that's an example of some really sort of dramatic, Dale Madell tones, kind of a miserlou sort of thing. But for the purpose of today, what I really want to get to is how to set a groove with more of a song, like a written song, so like I'm going from a D to a G to D to a G. I might opt to move up in here, especially if I'm in a recording session. And they want it to not stick out too much, but still have a flow to it, like a sort of a simpatico sound, like a. That kind of sound. And you can hear the difference, big difference. I know you guys can hear that even through this little old camera. If I wanted it to be bright, I'm going to move down. Nothing wrong with that. But sometimes you want it to blend in a more kind of mellow way, right? Now, mixing those things up can sound cool too. Like I'll give you a lick here to use. If you're in D, you can do. So it's just open A, A2, D, string, back to the A2, and then hit your D chord. So in slow motion would be, and then that sets up your D chord, right? So if keeping in mind what we just covered in terms of tonal dynamics, I might opt to have a rhythm sound that I kind of go more up towards the neck, because you want that to be super smooth. But then I want it to be a little more sparkly on the lick, which I do happens live, especially with a band when you want to cut through. So it might look something like this, And then, yeah, it kind of works. So you see how I'm. You don't have to go all the way down. Just different enough gist of what I'm saying here is, again, it's not so much about the licks. We're not going over hot licks today or anything like that. What I'm really trying to get you to maybe, you know, sort of feel or check out is the way that I'm moving up subtly up and down the strings, like more towards the neck for a softer sound. Now, if I want to take that to an extreme, I found out playing with Carlos Santana, I was watching, you know, we did a bunch of rehearsals together for a gig we did together, and I noticed he does this thing, a lot of people do this too, you probably do it. You cup your pick, right? And you don't lose your pick, but you cup it, because he's a pick guy mostly. And then he starts playing with his thumb to get that softer, you know, that... That sounds different than one is more articulated, obviously. But if we apply that to rhythm, you could even either cup your pick or do whatever you got to do with it, and then play with the skin on your thumb, and it's going to sound even. It's going to go from here to here, nice, to here. Now that's really, I like that sound, you know, it's really like super, it's just got some kind of quality to it. And sometimes, you know, when you're playing a song either as a duet or as a solo performer, which I got this gig coming up, and I'm really thinking a lot about, you know, how can it's a solo gig, you know, it's called Me and My Guitars, and so I'm going to have my National and all my different guitars, including some electrics on it. But it's always, for me, it's always a little bit, I don't know, it's a little bit of a challenge to play a whole night of you know, like a 2-hour show, just myself, and I. Luckily, I have my beautiful guitars to accompany me. So I'm thinking in terms, how am I going to, I don't want to beat them over the head the whole night with, you know, I'll do a little bit of that. But I also want to, you know, bring it down to like, you know, so that I have some peaks and valleys in the show, you know, it's not all one dynamic thing. So that's what I'm really trying to maybe illustrate here for you and shine a light on is that when we're playing, I think it's important to be aware of the dynamics. You know, I can't stand it when I'm playing with a bunch of guitars and everybody's just playing like this, you know, all the same rhythm, all the same, you know, volume. It's like, God, it really gets samey after a while. And I think the sign of a real pro is when, and you know this from watching guys, my favorite guy now is a guy named Jed Hughes in Nashville. That guy has such a touch, I swear. You know, he'll be able to, it's so expressive, you know. And I love that, especially on acoustic guitar. It really takes it to some cool places. So I hope I'm not getting too esoteric with you about this, but I think sometimes, you know, with these lessons, I want to go beyond just showing you a song or showing you a chord or a lick or a connected, and that's all great. It's important. But sometimes it's something a little more nuanced, you know, like how do you get the rhythm that's the same rhythm, same tempo, same groove, but you want to make a change in it, maybe from a verse to a chorus to a B section or whatever it is, you know, middle eight. And for me, part of it is changing up the attack, you know, whether it's a pick or using your fingers or hybrid, you know. You know. Thank you, Keith. Some guys, you know, they'll hybrid. That's a great sound if you can do it. So I'm covering an awful lot of ground in that lesson, but not really though, because it's still all about dynamics and making this beautiful instrument sing. Because there's so much, it's so expressive, the guitar. I think, you know, it's just the greatest instrument. And that's why I fell in love with it when I was like 13. Well, I did see the Beatles on Ed Sullivan. That didn't hurt. George Harrison with that big old Gretsch country gentleman. Oh my God. And you know, okay, the girl screaming in the audience. Okay. I raised my hand. But I know a lot of you guys grew up with the music I grew up with. So I hope you can appreciate that lesson, and we'll see you down the road.